Welcome to Tea Talk, another episode where I share community news, things I just want to share with you in general, and we got a lot to share today. So I want to share first off something that I wrote this week that I feel like someone needs to hear. Whenever I write something or something comes up during meditation and I share it, I feel like at least 90% of the time somebody reaches out and says that they needed to hear it. So sometimes it feels a little bit too vulnerable to share things that come up. They feel very deep and personal, or just it's putting myself out there sometimes and facing judgment potentially. But I feel like someone needed to hear this, so I want to read this. You'll never know your true potential unless you try. The fears in your head, the procrastination, feeling like it won't work out, or just feeling frozen to make decisions and pursue anything, all of it keeps you stuck. Remember who you're doing this for. Remember that younger version of you that was abandoned or hurt or told they weren't good enough, or that they were stupid, or that they were too much, or whatever message you received, the one that was programmed into you, whether from society, classmates, or even your own family and friends. But every time you doubt yourself, every time you speak unkindly to yourself or hold back, remember you are only telling that young, small version of you that he or she is not worthy. Instead, envision hugging that small version of yourself and saying, I got you. We'll figure this out together. So I'm very confident that that will find who it needs to find. So next up, I want to share a recent story of energy transmutation. And I just want to briefly explain and mention that energy transmutation can come in a few different forms, the way that you can look at it. So there is, of course, the sexual energy transmutation, which Napoleon Hill speaks of, which is more about preserving somewhat, but it's also more about channeling that energy productively, right? Just making sure it's not wasteful and it's directed more so towards creative pursuits. So it doesn't mean celibacy unless that's what you decide, of course, but it is about lessening distraction, obsession, and addiction. Then in addition, there is energy transmutation in general, which again can be about directing your energy away from distractions, but it's also a form of transmuting the energies around us. This could be also referred to as alchemy, of course. And as we become more aware, we become more intuitive. The majority of the people in the world are walking around very distracted. It's thought that about 10% of the people in the world do the deeper work to separate from that distraction and even work towards some level of spiritual growth, or even just personal growth or enlightenment. And when we increase the awareness in us, we start to reveal layers of ourselves and change ourselves. But also we can begin to influence the energy around us. We can kind of play with the energy. So I'll share a recent story of mine, as I mentioned. I went to a music festival a while back, and I had a long day in travel, very early flight, train ride that was long, and then not a very long walk to the hotel after the train ride, but what I didn't realize was that it was all uphill, so it seemed much longer than it was. So I arrived to my hotel very, very tired, of course, and just wanting to check in, as anyone would want to. And there was a man behind me that was clearly agitated, frustrated, anxious. Something was going on with him, and there was only one person working that was available to help us. And at the time, I didn't really realize, of course, what was going on. I was being helped. This man was pacing back and forth, and I could feel the energy. It was just kind of infiltrating everything and everyone around us. And not that he was violent or anything like that, nothing of that sort, but just the irritation level. And there was a moment, and a lot of what happened I only recognized afterwards because a lot of it was subconscious. And but there was still an awareness I had, a greater awareness that I had because of the work I've done, of course. And I had a moment where I needed to look for my license, and I I recognized it as an opportunity to say, why don't you just help him while I'm looking? And so it ended up, and I could have, of course, just, got to my room and, not opened up that space for him. But I could just sense that there was an opportunity there. And as I did that, his energy immediately changed. Completely the opposite of how it had been. Not tense, not anxious anymore. It was just a relief. And it was a change in gratitude as well that I allowed him to go before me. And then it ended up in a room upgrade for myself. So it ended up working out very well, and I'm glad that I responded to that energy. And that's just a small example. I'm just sharing a quick example because obviously there's other opportunities where you can do that, and we're all doing that on some level constantly. But as you do this work, you'll just notice a lot more of what's going on around you, and you'll become more aware of opportunities and areas where you can change the energy, change the current energy. And I think it's really important to just illustrate a small example of that. And I'd love for you to share your stories too, because I'm sure you've experienced something similar. So now on to some community news and updates. We are building out a channel on Rumble, and we're exploring other platforms too, like Odyssey. You'll find links in the description for anything that is currently in existence. There has been some expressed interest in being part of a Patreon. So we are currently researching what the structure of that could look like and if it would be best for our community. Because the important thing is that it actually creates what's going to be best for this community. And you can stay tuned for more updates on a Patreon. I will let you know as that moves along. And then many of these changes have been inspired by the invalid traffic issue that our channel recently experienced. If you've noticed, there was a post about this, and without going too deep into it, just know that it is an issue that is affecting many small creators for some reason. Seems to be creators that are probably under 500,000. There are creators that are, on the larger scale, I would say that's larger if you're 500,000, down to maybe, 10, 20,000 subscribers. And there's a lot of speculation about what is occurring. It is causing some creators to have to consider shutting down their businesses. Unfortunately, there are plenty of people who have built businesses around YouTube channels, and they have hired staff and they have studios, and even if you're not completely relying on YouTube for your income or your revenue, it can become a large part of that revenue if you've built a business, and it can shut your entire business down. So some creators are facing having their channels almost shut down, and it's just such a weird, complex, confusing, frustrating issue, and YouTube has not been providing any clear information to creators about this, and they are actually blaming the creators, even though what the assumption is that these channels have invalid traffic, meaning that it's traffic that the creator could potentially be driving that's not real traffic, like you're paying for views or something. None of these creators are doing anything like that. So some of the speculation is that this is some kind of bot, but also some speculation that that's not even what's happening, and that it's some kind of either bug or something in the programming that's going on with YouTube, and that they just are choosing not to address it. But I don't want to go into all the depth of that. There are several you can research if you like. There are actually some articles that have came out about some of the issues that YouTube is having with advertisers, and some of the speculation is making a connection between those things as well. So with that said, know that we also brought on a music producer this year, and just recently an editor. So we have our own staff, and it's important that we find the best ways to continue to create this work and make it sustainable and make sure everyone's taken care of, including you as the viewer. Due to some of these various changes with YouTube, not including the invalid traffic issue, but also just different changes that YouTube is making, you may start to notice more ads on meditations. That's something I've always tried to prevent. Unfortunately, I'm not able to at this point, and in order to listen to ad-free versions, you can purchase them in my shop. Not all of them are in my shop, but most of them are. You can also subscribe to YouTube Premium if you really want to support YouTube, or you can head over to Insight Timer, which is a free meditation app where most of the meditations that live on YouTube here actually live there as well. And I'll put a link in the description, of course, for Insight Timer and our channel. So we are being proactive by extending our reach to multiple platforms, and I'll keep you updated on what those are. We don't want to lose this community, so we want to keep expanding outward in order to continue to have this community. Also, I've honestly been really disappointed in the discussion component of all of the platforms where we currently have a presence. I was really disappointed in the YouTube Live experience. We tested out one of those a while ago. I didn't think it well attracted our core audience, and it didn't feel like a good way to connect and learn together. And a goal here is really to build community, and I've been seeking for many months the best way to do so. So Patreon seems like a possible solution, but I'd love feedback from you directly. I've been posting polls to collect information, but please feel free to leave comments below about what other platforms you'd like to see us on. I'd also like to know what you come to the channel for. Is it a certain type of meditation? Is it the discussions on consciousness? Is it everything? Is it something else? And also, what would you like to see more of on this channel or on other platforms? Because of course on other platforms we have different options. For example, if we start like a Discord, then that would be a different type of interaction, of course. If we start a Patreon, I'd also love to know what you would like to see as benefits. Some of the options could be free downloads of meditations, of worksheets and courses. We could do live events, we could have community calls, we could have individual guidance sessions, or whatever you can come up with. Let me know what you think. And what would you be willing and able to pay for those benefits? How can we make this sustainable for all involved? That is important to me. And as we expand to these other platforms, while ultimately it will open up more opportunity for connection and community, it will also allow for more privacy and less censorship. And I see some value in this as well. So all in all, my goal is to continue to provide education, to continue to provide guidance, and continue to provide resources to this community, to preserve this community. I'm trying to be one step ahead and ensure we do not lose this community. So you need to do your part as well. If you want to make sure we stay connected, it's important that you follow us on all our other platforms as well, and you will find the links below in the description. So I think that's it for today, and I hope to hear from many of you. There's over 20,000 of you now just here on YouTube. Would love to hear from even 1% of you, but even as many of you as possible to just let me know how you feel about the channel and what your needs are and how I can help you and how we can continue to grow and learn together. So I appreciate everyone's support and connecting. I love it when people reach out and we connect organically and have great conversations. And I've met such wonderful people here on YouTube. And we'll continue to find other ways to meet and connect for sure. But reach out anytime. Have a good day. Have a good week.